Do you want to earn a free toolbox? As a machinist, I would love to. We got to stick around to the end. And my guest today, Greg Sage, is going to have more details about how you can enter and win, and maybe tease a little bit about what's inside that toolbox if I can convince him properly. Today, I've got Greg on, and we're going to be digging into the most common materials that you see in your job shop, whether that's steels, stainless steels, or your high nickel alloys. Greg, I am so glad you're here today, man. I can't wait to dig into this with you.
Today's episode is brought to you by MTDCNC, the go-to platform covering the latest stories in the world of manufacturing.
Yeah, it's awesome. Glad to be here with you today, Arthur. Really excited to talk about turning products, what Kennametal has to offer. It's what I live and breathe every day. So, just ready to have some fun.
Yeah, Kennametal is a big brand. We got to meet and work together for the first time at IMTS, and the booth was crazy. I just love the direction the company as a whole is taking. You've been with them how long now?
So I've been with Kennametal almost 19 years. It'll be 19 years in September. So, been around for a while. Really, really exciting, great company to work for. And honestly, you're right. That booth at IMTS was really cool. Like the Metal Mania theming, just the rock concert atmosphere. It was awesome. Yeah. And what's really cool to me too is like when you look back at, talking about like the beginnings of Kennametal. Kennametal was founded in 1938. One of the things I love is Kennametal was honestly founded as a turning company. That is what we brought to market. That is what we were attacking. The carbide developments we did back in those days and what we did, for the industry was huge. And then just to look at that transformation and transition to now, and all of the crazy things that are going on. It's just an awesome legacy and, fantastic to be a part of, just a great company to work for, and, just really excited about all the cool stuff we got going on right now.
Yeah, actually, when I was manual machining, Kennametal was actually the first insert grades I would use because we had a lot of like flame cut steel, and it was the only ones we used the T series, and it was the only ones that would hold up to the flame cut edge. It was the only ones that wouldn't notch the moment you put it into that steel. Still had to undercut it and all the other stuff, but we're not here to talk about me, man. I want to dig into like steel grades because you've had a lot of advancements when it comes to grades and chip breakers and everything.
Yep.
And maybe we can talk about chip breakers after we talk about the material grades. But what would you use right now if there's a job shop watching right now and they really want to knock out their steel and get more economical, get more performance, whatever the angle? What would you recommend for them?
So our latest steel grade that we've got out is our KCP25C. And when I'll just quickly break that down because I think it's kind of cool to like understand the nomenclature, the naming of how we do those things. So that the K stands for Kennametal. That's pretty straightforward. C means it's a coated carbide insert. In this case, it's got a CVD coating to it. And then P is going to mean your material group you're dealing with. So it's directly aimed at your low carbon, high carbon, alloy, and even pH stainless steel. So anything that falls in that P class of steels, that's what KCP25C is for. And then the 25, that's your ISO hardness to toughness. So, the lower the number, the harder the insert. The higher the number, the tougher the insert. So that 25 series falls right in the middle. It's that workhorse, like, just everyday general machining, going to give you the ability to get good wear resistance, but also a good level of toughness as well. And then the C at the end is just the newest generation. So that just tells you that it's the newest generation we've got out. And it's our Ken Gold CVD coating on there, which is our newest coating generation. So yeah, just really exciting, awesome inserts that we've got there in that new grade to go out and attack the steel market.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that it goes into the pH series as well, because that's another one I've been seeing a lot of in the job shops. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to know that you can kind of bridge that gap, because technically most people might start with a stainless grade for the pH series.
Right. That's, and in the past that is kind of kind of the direction you needed to go sometimes, was maybe that a little bit tougher grade that was maybe a little more aimed into stainlesses to get into those. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'll tell you, honestly, that P5, P6, those pH stainless categories within the steels, man, the KCP25C has been performing fantastic in those. It is just, honestly, it's, if you've got, if there's a job shop out there that's running pH stainless, like I would highly encourage them to take a look at the KCP25C. The new coating technology has just been doing a fantastic job, really helping us to get, better speed, better productivity, and just overall tool life, wear resistance. It's been working, really, really well in a tough material category, to be honest with you. P5, P6 materials are not easy to cut. So, really exciting that we're seeing, great results out of the KCP25C in those kinds of materials.
Yeah, 100%. That was one material when it first hit the market in mass. It really threw everyone for a cluster. I love the research that Kennametal's continued to put into meeting the demands. It's a fantastic material group. But I don't want to spend the whole episode talking about 17.4 pH, though. I'm sure we could. We both have enough experience to do it. But so we're talking about the 17.4 pH, which is technically a stainless, but cuts more like a hardened steel. So we use your hard steel. Let's say we're using like a full stainless. They're doing a lot of 304, 316. What would you tell those shops? Where would you tell them just to get started?
Sure. So our other grades that we've launched here recently in our Ken Gold series, this is on the PVD side of things. So a thinner PVD coating versus that thicker CVD that you're going to get on the KCP25C. And those grades are KCU 10B and KCU 25B. So that U in the naming there stands for universal. So they can be used across your material groups. They're going to work really well in steels. They're going to work, even cast irons and your high-temp alloys. But they work extremely well in the stainless arena. So that is really the place that I would, directly aim everyone to. And the great thing about them for job shops, not only if you run a lot of stainless, great grades to use in that. But if you get steel jobs in, if you get, Inconel or titanium jobs in from time to time, they're going to give you that ability to spread that out across all of those, reduce the amount of inventory you're keeping in inserts. You're not going to have a special grade for this one and, a different grade for that job. You're going to be able to use them across, all of those different things that you're doing on a daily basis and really help yourself save some money and save some time and not having to search, for that specific insert to use, on this job versus that job.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you can use it on the high mix. Something I used to do when I was still running the shop, and then I did it when I was in distribution selling tools, is look at the material mix, right? What tools should I keep on the floor to kind of address all of it? And so you're saying the one that excels at stainless is also a good multi-material insert as well.
That's right.
So if they had like a 25% mix of stainless, it would make sense to be the go-to?
Yeah. Honestly, I think really with those grades, what we're seeing, the performance out of them and the improvements that we're seeing in terms of tool life, in terms of productivity improvements. Honestly, I don't even think it necessarily needs to be a specific mix of how much of one material you're running versus the other. We have running in everywhere from, think like your biggest OEM, constant production on the same part, running thousands of pieces of that part, every single day, all the way down to a job shop who's running, 20 pieces of a job that they've got in. So, in all honesty, like it can be used for that high production value type of work. It can also be used for that, lower, production job shop, switching over, maybe running 2 or 3 different materials in a day's time. So, in all honesty, the KCU 10B and KCU 25 PVD grades are just, they're fantastic, and really, there's not an area of the market that you can't see a benefit with them.
That's amazing. It's so important in the job shop world. You get such a mix of jobs. The last thing you want to worry about is, oh shit, did my guys change the inserts?
Right.
You don't want to have to worry about that. And that's one of the reasons I really like the reduction. The other one too, I was at a shop when we were getting assessed by a bank for a loan, and they came in and they took a tally of all the dollars we had on the floor. So if you can reduce your cost of tooling and consolidate as well, you don't have the errors with the lack of, the opportunities to upskill people out there. But then you also might have a little bit less liability to the banks if you're looking for a little bit of leverage right now.
Oh, 100%. 100%. The more efficient you can be, it's one thing to be more efficient in your machining operations, but the more efficient you can be in that inventory, your free cash flow. Like, what do you have wrapped up in insert inventory and tooling inventory sitting around? When you can consolidate that and you can make that more streamlined and be more effective across everything that you're doing on a regular basis, that's a win. And so that's definitely an area that customers that, like I said, if small job shops up to larger, OEMs can really be able to do that well. Those grades work, great to do that, because they honestly, I was just doing some analysis on our test reports the other day, and honestly, we are just seeing fantastic results with them across the material group: stainlesses, steels, high temps. They're winning grades that are providing excellent solutions to the customers, and that's the big point at the end of the day. It's like, it's great if it wins, but at the end of the day, we want to solve customer problems, and that's what these grades are allowing us to do. They're allowing us to help customers save money, be more productive, and be able to do that across the board, and that's what our goal is at Kennametal, is to help our customers do what they do even better.
Yeah, look, you haven't been there almost 2 decades because they're a bad place to work or because they don't care about people. You're a man with a big heart. You're going to work somewhere that brings that to their customers. But so we've talked about the steels, and we've talked about how universal your KCU grade is. What if they're doing a ton of high nickel alloys? They're not happy with what they're getting results with. Where would you steer those shops?
Sure. So for specifically high temp alloys, and definitely specifically the nickel based alloys like your Inconels and things like that, that is where I would steer them directly to our KCS10B. So once again, similar naming to the other one, but it's got that S in the name, which is going to stand for your high temp alloys. So KCS10B, the reason I would steer them towards that, so that is it's a PVD coated insert. It's a really, really ultra smooth coating on that insert, and it's actually, the way it's applied, it's not to get too technical, it's called High-temp, and it's high impulse magnetron sputtering is the way that this PVD coating is applied. Basically breaking you down. What it comes down to, super tiny PVD particles that when you think about how they fill in and line up next to each other, they fill in all those gaps, all those micro cracks. It's just super smooth, which helps those materials as you're cutting, helps the chips evacuate across it very well. Really ability to really adhere well to the sharpest cutting edges, which is a huge thing that you need in high temp alloy machining, because work hardening is something you're always going to fight against. So the sharper the edge, the lower the amount of tool pressure is just going to make it work that much better, and it fights off depth of cut notching, which is a huge failure mode within the high temp alloys. So it was 100% specifically designed for those materials in mind. So a shop that's cutting that all day long, every day, that's what they do, that's their bread and butter, that KCS10B is really going to be the right avenue for them to go down. And honestly, the kind of speeds you can run it in those materials are pretty crazy. It's one of those ones where it loves to run fast. So, man, productivity gains are there to be had by customers if they're, willing to go after it and to really let that insert run the way it wants to.
Yeah, and it's nice that Kennametal has been refining the coating technology to hold that sharp edge. Because when the high nickel stuff and the high temp alloy started coming out to market and getting more common in the engineering side, it was really hard as a machinist, because you knew you needed the sharp geometry to get a good chip formation and get good dimensions and all the other stuff that you do the sharp geometry for. But then you were peeling away the edge of the insert and you were down to raw substrate so quickly because it was rubbing off because it couldn't stand up to the temperature. Yeah. Well, that's
so definitely something we went after with that coating was it had to be able to adhere and stay adhered. It's one thing for us to be able to put it on a sharp edge, but it's another thing for it to actually, not to delaminate and come apart and pull off of that edge. And that's really, that's one of the hallmarks of KCS10B. And it really is a game changing grade when you're talking about high temp alloy machining. So it's awesome.
Yeah, well, and I like that you've kind of got the 3 major offerings. You've got a universal in the middle. It also ended up in the middle of our conversation somehow, but that's okay. That kind of works.
Yeah.
So with the KCU, then that was the last one we talked about, right? I'm not messing up the name.
The KCS is the one we just talked about. KCS.
No, the one before that. Sorry.
Oh, before that, yeah, that's the KCU. That's the universals. Yep.
Yeah, so with the KCU then, could you also, if you only did a little bit of high nickel alloys, could you still kind of use it, or would you recommend they go right to the KCS?
Yeah, that if you want to talk about a split there, like if you've got if you're a shop, that is running, like I said, if 80% of what you're running is high temp alloys, is Inconels, titaniums, things like that, I would probably say that your best bet is to go the route of the KCS 10B. But if you're the kind of job shop that's running, you're running some steels, you're running some stainless, and you're also running some high temp alloys, 100% those KCU grades are going to work really, really well in those high temp alloys as well. So, it really does come down to what makes the most sense for what you're doing. If productivity and maximum tool life in that specific arena of high temp alloys is what you're looking for, KCS 10B is going to be your answer. If excellent results across material groups and the ability to quickly transition from job to job and material to material is your goal, then that's where the universal grades, the KCU grades, are going to be your best bet.
Yeah, I like that it touches on that, because in the end, that's the main thing, is how much are you actually getting in? I've been in job shops where we might get a high nickel job once every quarter. Like, we really don't want to spend money on a full pack of inserts to use one a quarter. Like, we just didn't, again, talking about that tying your money up and stuff, we didn't want to tie our money up into a big pack. Like, we were not a bigger shop at one of the ones I was at.
Right.
We needed to think about this stuff to put the priorities there. So I'm glad that the KCU really does kind of just balance.
I mean, from my opinion, when I look at how they perform, how those two different grades perform in high temp alloys, I mean, it's not like a clear, the KCS 10B just completely demolishes the KCU series in there. No, it's literally a 1A, 1B. It's one of those where, like, if you have to go to if you decide to use the KCU series in it, you're not giving up a ton, you know what I mean? So it's one of those that, like I said, if you're running it all day long, KCS 10B, if it's just part of what you do, then maybe the KCUs make a little more sense.
Yeah, you guys got to be careful. They might just narrow you all down to KCU only at this point. It's getting that good.
Hey, it is what it is. I mean, it's one of those, like I said, they're fantastic grades. They've been working awesome, in the market, and it's part of our tagline we've got for that. We keep telling customers, we want you to change your materials, not your tools. So I mean, that's if that's what they're doing, if they're running out those KCU grades, that's awesome. As long as we're helping customers do what they need to do better, then we're doing our job at the end of the day.
Perfect, man. Well, Greg, I'm so glad that you came for the overview and kind of shared a little bit about everything. I know we said we were going to get into chip breakers. Do you have like a short one? Because there's people listening right now that really want to hear about this giveaway, and I don't want to make them wait too much longer.
Sure. Yeah, just to touch on them real quick. So on the steel side of things, so we've launched a couple of new chip breakers here over the past couple of years. It's our MV and FV, and what that stands for is either medium versatile or finish versatile. And with both of those, what we really wanted to do, we wanted to, I know how difficult it can be, whether you're looking at our catalog or whoever's catalog, all of the different chip geometries that are available. What do I use? What's going to be the best thing to use here? Like, once again, we're looking to try to make that simpler and make it easier to know these are the right ones to use, and these are the ones that are going to cover the most ground for you. That's why they've got versatile in the name. And so with steel, the big thing with steel is you need edge strength to machine, alloy steels, things like that. But you also need that shearing capability, so you're really forming that chip. And that's what the MV and the FV do really well. They've actually got a positive type geometry right down at the nose radius. So when you're talking about lower depth of cut, you're still getting good chip formation and really good chip control. But then it flattens out as you get up the cutting edge, so that as you're taking those heavier cuts, you are still getting that edge strength that you need to hold up in a steel application. So they're just a really great marriage, and the design work that went into that and the development, I tip my hat to, our internal folks, our engineers that work on those things, but they've been working awesome as well. So excellent chip control. So if you're having, trouble with chips and steel materials, definitely look for the MV and the FV. Just awesome, ability to control chips and help customers out with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, versatile sounds right, because normally the standard is you got to pick your chip breaker and it's only effective in a small range. And it sounds like you've really widened that range.
Yep.
To make it simpler, again, for the shops that are most of our stuff comes out of small shops, like job shops.
Right. And that was exactly what we wanted to do with those. We wanted to broaden that range. We wanted to say, here's 2 geometries. You've got one if you need to do the finishing. Here's a finishing one. If you're in more of a medium cut, here's, just general type of machining, here's that one. And they really do. I mean, they cover a broad range, really give our customers the ability to, attack just about anything they're going to run into, with those couple of geometries, and just excellent results with them so far.
Well, I like the versatility, man, because I've been the guy at the spindle trying to balance how much material I leave to try to get an accurate cut and get the right finish. And then I was like, oh man, I need to leave this much to get a good cut for the way that my machine engages. But then I'm not leaving enough and I'm getting a stringy mess at the spindle trying to finish my part.
Yep.
It's like, so I really appreciate that as a machinist, man. I think that's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Look, we've kept them hanging on for a long time, Greg.
We have.
Do you think you could share a little bit about that giveaway? What can you share with us?
Awesome. Yeah. So this year, it's a big year for us with turning. Like I said, I mean, we've been around since 1938. We're a turning company at heart. And so we're really pushing this idea that, not only is Kennametal born to turn, but we want our customers to be born to turn as well. And so what we have is we have custom painted toolboxes, and, they've got custom artwork on the outside of them. So, just really cool looking. If any of these customers have been to any of our road shows, or they happen to see us at IMTS, it's the same kind of toolboxes we have on our roadshow truck and in our booth, but it's going to be, custom, tricked out, really cool looking. And within it, I actually went through and picked out, I handpicked the tools and the grades that are going in there myself, so I can vouch for what's in there. But we're going to have an assortment, some holders, and things like that, some, just standard 1-inch holders, those kind of things. But then KCP 25C, you're going to find inserts in there. So you got some steel inserts. You've got our KCU 10B and KCU 25B and our KCS 10B. All those grades we've talked about today, there's going to be some of those inserts in there. We've got a little bit for cutoff in there. A little bit for some other grooving applications. So, just kind of a nice, overview of here's some turning tools from Kennametal. It's about a $4,000 value. You've got in that toolbox, plus there's going to be a voucher involved in it as well, so they can use that for even, to even get more specific tooling for what they need at a discount. So, just really excited about it. It's up and running now. If you go to our website, it's www.kennametal.com/born to turn, and that's where they can, enter in to win that. But yeah, just really exciting. Going to be going through the end of the year. So, sometime in probably the January timeframe is when we're going to be, announcing and getting those toolboxes out towards the winners. And so, yeah, so just really exciting. It's awesome for me being the turning guy to have, the push behind our turning products from the whole company. And so just really excited about it. It's awesome.
Yeah, well, the excitement's obvious. I'm excited. I thought it was just a cool toolbox, but it's a cool toolbox plus tool holders, plus a bunch of different inserts, plus you said a certificate. Mm-hmm. So whether I want more of a different thing, or maybe I test out the KCU and I'm like, yeah, man, this is the one, and I can just dump that certificate into a bunch of KCU stuff.
That's right.
And then you said there's grooving in there too. You guys have gone all out on this package.
Yep. We wanted to, gone are the days of holding back. We wanted to go over the top. We wanted to make sure that, what we were putting out there, we want to get people excited. We want to get people talking about Kennametal turning. It's a foundation of our company, and we want to get that name, the Kennametal name. for the most part, people know Kennametal in the machining world. But at the same time, if we can find that many more new people that are excited about Kennametal and get those products in their hands, that's awesome. So really, really cool idea, really awesome, and excited to have it out there. And looking forward to to whoever wins it, and what kind of good improvements and solutions we can provide to them through it.
Look, to the people listening or watching right now, one, go in to enter that contest. But two, if you just skip to this part to figure out what was inside the toolbox, shame on you. Go back to the beginning of the episode, because Greg lays out exactly what you need for each material group. So you really should give it a listen, because you're going to benefit on your side. All right, Greg, I'm so glad that you were here. Look, really quick before you go, though, I know you said the draw is going to be in January. Do you know when the cutoff date is yet?
The end of December. So they have from now until December 31st to get those entries by going to the website and putting that entry in. So yeah, they've got a little bit of time here before that's going to get wrapped up.
Perfect. Okay, so look, if it's still 2025 and you're hearing us, one, thank you so much for listening. Two, make sure you go enter that draw. We'll have the link included down below, and you can click on that and just enter. Get your friends to enter. Maybe get some parents to enter. I mean, I don't think they're going to check your work history. You could really get a whole bunch of people in on this and win. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that, Greg. I don't know.
Somebody else in the company has to worry about all the all the rules and regulations. So I would assume we probably are going to make sure it's going to a machine shop of some kind. So I don't think anybody's grandma's going to win it. But point well taken. Get everybody in your shop to go in there and get entries put in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like just the more we can. The more entries we can get in there, the better. And one last little plug: if you've got a local rep for Kennametal that you deal with on a regular basis, obviously reach out to them. If you don't, though, reach out to us. This is a great way for you to reach out to us and a possibility of winning some awesome tooling. But, we would love to hear from you, and we would love to touch base with you and figure out how it is we can help you, just not only improve your turning, and the productivity you have on your turning applications, but everything. If it's solid end milling, if it's hole making, whatever it is, we would love to help you figure out how to do what you do better.
Oh, 100%, man. Look, in manufacturing, if you want to be successful, you need to find people to trust. I mean, look at Greg. If you can see him, how can you not trust this man? He's devoted almost 2 decades to one company because he believes so strongly in what they're doing for the world. This is a great person to trust. This is a great company to reach out to. And look, if you're not reaching out to trust anyone, then you're going to miss the boat, and your competition's going to beat you. And who enters a competition to lose?
That's right.
I mean, thank you so much, Greg, for being here today. Thank you to all of you for tuning in. If you've got any questions, we'll watch the comments, so you can drop those down below. And if you want to reach out, you can hit the Kennametal website. You can reach out to Greg. I'm sure he'll be tagged in this some way, but just start the conversation. Kennametal is a great company to trust. You just heard about how much they've been investing since 1938. That's the date.
That's right, 1938.
There we go. All right, well, to everyone else, we'll see you later.
Thank you for listening. If you want to find out more about what's happening in the world of manufacturing and engineering, visit mtdcnc.com.